Welcome to Buffalo Gameday Recap. I'm Thad Brown along with AJ Feldman. I am in Albany, New York, halfway home from my trip from Foxborough after the Bills and the Patriots played what I guess could generously be called a professional football game. But it was a game that counted in the standings, and it's a game that we will talk about for a little bit. But mostly this is going to be a discussion about the Bills and their playoff future. But AJ, when it comes to this game, I think the number one story was kind of the incentives. The fun little items that guys were able to cash in on and achieve in this game. Von Miller, 1.5 million with the sack. James Cook, the touchdown to tie O.J. Simpson, getting to 1,000 yards. The Sam Martin 25th punt down inside the 20. And look, people might scoff at this a little bit, or think, well, if it's not about winning a Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. But the thing that I got from these players, and I don't think people should be surprised by this, is that when you have a team that supports and even manufactures opportunities for these guys to achieve individual goals, it A, brings them together, but B, it makes them believe that all the stuff they're doing week after week, that the process that everybody's got to buy into, will eventually benefit them individually down the road when their time comes.
Yeah, the incentives, the milestones, it's been a thing in the past. This year, it got ramped up for a couple of reasons. None of the games today were really good. We got a Sunday night football game going around right now, but other than that, there wasn't a single game with two teams who really truly cared and had things to play for playing against each other. So that kind of people need to look at subplots. Of course, the rise of gambling boosted things up, and social media. Everybody thinks that they are the first ones to tweet out about Mike Evans, but no, it was all that being said, it did its job. It provided a nice little subplot for this game. James Cook, they did try maybe not their hardest to get Reggie Gilliam a receiving touchdown, a receiver who hadn't been one of those 13 receiving touchdown. They did put Gilliam out in a pass route. It seems like he was the first read if it would have made it there. But no, a fun little subplot to a game that, as we said, didn't really matter. Josh Allen played just one snap. The inactives list was full of starters, and the Bills come away with a 23-16 loss.
I mean, we could do a side discussion on, the more games the NFL plays, the more likely it is they have week 18 games that don't matter, because the more you play, the more the good and bad teams are going to separate each other. It feels like week 18 has been more of a waste of time more and more the last few years. I'm sure some of that is just anecdotally, and we're left with discussing these props, and the fact that, the most exciting part of my day today was watching the Reggie Gilliam anytime touchdown line not be posted at all weekend, get thrown up this morning by DraftKings at plus 425, seeing the thing drop like a stone to plus 150 by game time. And then later on, FanDuel was like, yeah, I guess we'll throw something up too. And they opened them at plus 500 when DraftKings at the same time was at plus 150. I did lose some money on the Reggie Gilliam anytime touchdown. But
I did as well, yeah.
The point is that that was the story today. And, look, the Bills earned their way into making it that's the story because they had won so many games. But like you said, there weren't a lot of good games around the league to talk about, and I don't want to get into that. This is a Bills discussion, not a league-wide discussion, but that is kind of part of the thing. The NFL's had week 18 kind of be a waste of time the last few years, and today kind of felt like that again. All right, when it comes to the game itself, and let's break down a little more with this. Among the guys who are starters who played a lot, Damar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, the two safeties who have not played together in a month. Hamlin played just about the whole game. And AJ, I was pretty unimpressed because they got lit up by, checking my notes, Joe Milton today, for whatever it was, 200 and something yards, and, made him look pretty darn good as a quarterback. And this is a team that's going to have to face Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes in a few weeks.
Yeah, the safeties didn't play very well. The long touchdown in the second quarter, it looked like it just a complete breakdown by Taylor Rapp as Milton was scrambling. Taylor Rapp essentially forgot his position and his jobs as safety and just let a guy run wide open. Didn't seem to be any sort of a communication issue. Just seemed to be forgot to play defense. It might not be as simple as that, but not a strong point for Taylor Rapp. And that's certainly one of the key positions to watch going into this playoff game. Obviously, Damar Hamlin has missed a lot of time. Cole Bishop has had his ups, had his downs. He's the stronger athlete. There's more upside, but Damar Hamlin is kind of the steadier guy. Where does Sean McDermott go there? The other position to watch, I think, was linebacker. And Matt Milano did not play at all this game. a guy who we thought might want to get some reps, get back into the swing of things even more, get some more reps going to the playoffs. Dorian Williams played all the way into the third quarter. So it does seem like that, at least for game one, and unless, Matt Milano burns them, Matt Milano is going to be their guy opposite Terrell Bernard in this opening playoff game against the Broncos.
With linebacker, I think there's the discussion between Milano and Dorian Williams about who might be the better player. But I think end of the day, if you have a discussion and Matt Milano is one half of the discussion, then you're just going to play Matt Milano and live with the results because you know what his track record is. I've seen him this year be at least looking like old Matt Milano when it comes to blitzes. So that at least is one part of the game where I feel confident he can be a benefit. And Dorian Williams has been better this year, but not so much where I'm pounding the table to get him on the field in a playoff game. I think you're right. I don't want to say there's a leash or a short one with Matt Milano, but I think there at least is going to be an option for the Bills. If they feel like Milano's not doing what he needs to do in the playoffs, then go to Dorian Williams. But I think it would probably take a lot to get there. One other thing, I want to go back to safety just for a second. Damar Hamlin played a lot in this game.
Yeah.
I'm noticing him on the field in the fourth quarter. And Sean McDermott said afterward it was to get him going, to have him, basically build confidence more or less. Look, you can do that in a half. I don't want to say that Hamlin was playing for a starting spot. And to your point about Cole Bishop, when he's been in the last few weeks, he's looked almost competent, which for a rookie who hasn't played a lot this year is a hell of a compliment. I'm not even joking about that. It's not backhanded. He's looked okay. So with Hamlin being the guy who's kind of been the weakest link, he's not terrible, but of the group, he's the not strong player. There was a thought like, are they really considering going some other way? And I wouldn't be dropped on the ground stunned if Cole Bishop started in the playoffs. I don't think the Bills will roll out a rookie safety for a postseason, especially guys who played a lot. But it was, like I said, a curious amount of time to have Damar Hamlin in this game.
And the thing you have to think about, first up is the Broncos, not obviously a dangerous passing attack, so maybe the safeties aren't as important. And then most likely you're going to get the Ravens, which is, a ground and pound, a Derrick Henry, obviously Lamar Jackson team, a game where you would think a player like Cole Bishop would thrive. He plays really well in the box. That's his strength at that point for sure. So maybe they gave Damar Hamlin a chance today and they're going to go with Cole Bishop. We'll see if that is revealed on Monday or if we'll have to wait until Sunday to figure out who will be the starting safety in the playoffs.
Oh, if they're changing safeties, there ain't no way they're letting us know until Sunday at 1:05. That's exactly the time to let us know. But I think Hamlin's still going to be the guy. But again, it was just eye-opening how much he played today. Other side of the ball, the other guy I want to talk about quick is Keon Coleman. I mentioned in Thad's three things. I thought this might be a game where he might have to prove he can be trusted in the playoffs because, like some of the guys, like you said, with Cole Bishop, another rookie who's had his ups and downs this year. And right this second, if the Bills have, let's say it's the playoffs, it's fourth down, minute to go in the game, Bills down 6, and you're going to roll out your best group of pass catchers, I don't think Keon Coleman's in that group right now. I think it's Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper, and Mac Hollins, who I want on the field. And today's game, I was hoping to see Coleman show he can be trusted, he can be relied on. It was hard to get that, though, when you had Mike White and Mitch Trubisky whipping the ball every which way in the general direction of Keon Coleman. That said, there were multiple plays where Coleman, again, didn't look like he's getting separation, where, I thought maybe Coleman could have been in a better position. But this was not a fair or reasonable assessment of where he is, even if I'm probably still in the spot where I was this morning in that I don't think Coleman is among your top 5 guys you want to go with when the playoffs start next week.
Yeah, and like you said, you put this with a gigantic grain of salt, but here are the numbers for the Bills receivers. Curtis Samuel had 8 targets, he made 7 catches. Mac Hollins had 4 targets, he made 3 catches. Keon Coleman had 10 targets, he made 2 catches. Now, he could have just gotten all the bad balls from Mike White and Mitch Trubisky, and there were a handful of them, especially by Mike White, but that certainly, on the surface, is a little eye-opening.
Yeah, the numbers don't totally lie. At some point they have to be, noticed. And it's not just the numbers. It's been, now look, I'll tell you what, Coleman getting 10 targets is actually an improvement because I generally think targets are earned. And if he's open enough to get targets, then that's a step forward for him this year. But again, I don't know if you can trust regularly a guy who's going 2 out of 10 with throws in the playoffs. Now look, Coleman's going to play, but you're not going to play the same 3 receivers the whole game. But again, when you are in the high leverage spots that are going to be coming maybe as soon as this Sunday, Coleman is not a guy right now I feel good about having on the field. And today's game did not change that, even if his opportunities to change that seem to be few and far between. Let's talk about that playoff right now. Unless you go ahead.
I
Yep.
got I got one more point. I want to point out my favorite stat, which Bills fans
Oh
on
yes,
Twitter
we should. I'm
don't
sorry. Go
seem
ahead.
to be
Yeah.
realizing. So the Patriots this year, they finished the year 4-13. They obviously blow their first overall draft pick, but that's not what I want to talk about. Here are the 4 starting quarterbacks that the 4-13 Patriots beat this year: Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Caleb Williams, and Josh Allen. Yes, I know he didn't play, but technically Josh Allen started, which I think has to be. I'm not saying that all 4 of these quarterbacks are going to go into the Hall of Fame, whatever, but they all have the potential to. Caleb Williams is still young and good. I would think the Patriots would have to be the only team in NFL history to beat all of their starting quarterbacks who went to the Hall of Fame. Like I said, it might not happen, but the fact that those are the 4 starting quarterbacks that the 4-13 New England Patriots beat this year, I find absolutely hysterical.
It is awesome. That is a great stat. And then the other good one that you brought up last week that was erased today is Mitch Trubisky is no longer the worst rusher in the NFL. He what did he get? Like 12, 13 yards today, something like that?
Yeah, he got 12, and he is now at 1 for the entire season.
So he went from -11 to 1, +1 rushing yards. I did talk to him, by the way, walking off the field. I said, "Hey, you're out of the basement." He kind of gave me a fist bump and said, "All right, that like the Bills were not excited to lose this game. They're still going to take that seriously." But you could tell that it kind of meant a little bit to him coming off the field.
And I did, when I was doing research to expand on our web article, the Bills actually had this mark last year going into the finale too. Kyle Allen was dead last going into the regular season finale, but the Texans punter took a -23-yard intentional safety at the end of the game to take over that honor. So the Bills 2 straight years had the worst rusher in the league and got out of that hole in the final week of the season.
These folks are the things we talk about in Week 18. All right, let's move on to the playoffs. So the Bills get Denver as expected. Sunday, 1 o'clock will be the kickoff. Let's talk about the time real quick. First of all, no one was more excited about the playoff schedule than the Buffalo Bills media. A home 1 o'clock Sunday playoff game is like manna from heaven for all of us. No weird Saturday weeks, no Sunday night. Just show up, get a game done, get all your work done, get home in a regular hour. It is so exciting. I think the obvious initial reaction is, looking ahead. Not that we should dismiss the Broncos, and we won't. We'll talk about them in a minute. But should the seeding and the games go as expected, it's going to be Bills Ravens week 2, and Baltimore got a Saturday night game. So theoretically, the Ravens are going to catch an extra, not quite 24 hours, but an extra day of rest heading into what will probably be a road trip for the Bills. Who knows what kind of benefit that can be? But the way the schedule has fallen already, that the Bills did not catch the biggest of breaks from there. Do we get crazy about that or no?
I would actually say it evens out because 2 things. A, the Bills got their rest today. And B, the Ravens played the wacky Christmas schedule down the stretch. So they've been discombobulated. They've been playing on short rest. They got a little bit of a break before this Saturday game. But I think if anything, if people might make this a deal next week if it turns out to be the Ravens. But I think if you zoom out and take a look at the last 5 weeks as a whole, if anything, the Bills would have the better advantage based on rest and scheduling and all that above.
And the Bills have been playing Sunday games, not necessarily 1 o'clock, but Sunday games on a regular basis pretty much since the bye here. So, yeah, I agree. And I think you should look at it that way. It's not, these are people, with real life bodies that, react differently to, problems over weeks like all of us do. And yeah, the Ravens schedule has been ridiculous for the last, month and change. So I agree. I think it's a good call. Let's take a look at Denver for a minute. Look, people are going to look at Bo Nix and immediately dismiss the Broncos as a threat. And someone was talking about, and I think that this discourse has been Bills fans saying, "I don't want to play the Bengals, but the Broncos are fine." To me, the Broncos defense is whatever you think the Bengals offense is. It is that good a level. Their defensive line is unbelievably tough. I think people who saw that Cincinnati game where, yeah, the Bengals put up 30 on Denver, but they did it pounding at the goal line over and over it, 7, 8 play sequences inside the 10, trying to score touchdowns, getting stopped on 4th down after 4th down. The Broncos are going to be a headache on defense. And then look, offensively, their run game is trash, but Bo Nix has shown that he can do some things out of the pocket. Cortland Sutton is still fine as a top receiver. Their other guys can fly, and Sean Payton is still a smart guy coaching football. So look, this is, I think at some point I want to talk about like ranking seven seeds the Bills have faced since they're used to being in this two seed spot. I think the Broncos might rate highly there, even if they're not really a legitimate playoff threat. And the 8.5 point opening line kind of underscores that.
Yeah, I think there are a couple things to point out is that the fact that a lot of the Broncos' strengths kind of will be counteracted by what the Bills do. Bo Nix is, like you said, been their best player on offense, which isn't saying a ton. Sean McDermott does really well against rookie quarterbacks, as many good defensive coaches do. On defense, Broncos have a great pass rush, a great front seven. They get more. They've had more sacks this season than any other team in the league. Obviously, the Bills have allowed the fewest sacks of any team in the league. And then their number one player on the entire roster is Pat Surtain. He's an amazing lockdown cornerback. He might be the defensive player of the year, which is really tough to do, especially when you don't even put up interceptions because no one is looking at you. And the Bills have a lot of number two wide receivers. They don't really have a number one wide receiver. So it's not like they have, one guy who the Broncos can lock down and, oh, now the Bills are screwed. Well, the everybody eats, as we've said 20,000 times this year, will actually play much heavily into their favor because, okay, whoever is going to line up against Pat Surtain, just don't look at him because you got three other guys running around who can basically do the same exact thing as him.
It's a great point. Matchups make fights, and in this one, Buffalo's got a lot of good answers for what Denver does well. The Bills' offensive line against the Denver defensive line is going to be by far my favorite, matchup to see how this goes down, with the Bills. But I think no matter who the Bills got as a 7 seed, Miami, Cincinnati, whoever, to me, the biggest threat to the Bills in this game was going to be the Bills. They have to beat themselves to lose this game. Now, look, it doesn't have to be a total meltdown. You catch a Josh Allen interception and, one of these fumbles the Bills, have recovered a lot of this year going the other way. And yeah, this game gets a little dicey, but it's a rookie quarterback on the road against a defense that generally shreds rookie quarterbacks in a very difficult environment against the quarterback who might be the MVP. The Bills should win that game somewhere in the neighborhood of 8.5 or 9 times out of 10. And I feel pretty confident saying that. But again, Denver will be a pain in the neck. Let's play the 7 seed game, by the way. You ready? So you got the Skylar Thompson Dolphins, the Mason Rudolph Steelers, and the Phillip Rivers Colts, and the Bo Nix Broncos. So rank those 1 through 4. I'll do it first while you think about it because I pretty much have this already in my head. I'm going to go the Phillip Rivers Colts, number 1, the Bo Nix Broncos, number 2, the Skylar Thompson Dolphins 3, and the Mason Rudolph Steelers 4. If TJ Watt had played with those Steelers, then they'd be higher. But that team who showed up with Mason Rudolph, I think, was the worst of the 4 7 seeds the Bills will have played after this weekend.
I will agree on the top 2. I would flip the 3 and the 4 just barely. And I say that because as the person who went back and logged the footage of that wild card game, I couldn't believe how bad Skylar Thompson was. It looked like they were playing a high school offense with, the third string guy who got called up from wide receiver. Like it was very, very bad. So the fact that Mason Rudolph was a competent force at the quarterback position, I think would elevate them. But it certainly has not been a murderer's row, which is what we've seen as they've expanded the playoffs in this 7. The only team that's won was last year when the Packers beat the Cowboys in the playoffs, and that even gets discounted because it's the Cowboys in the playoffs. So 7 seeds have not done very much since they've expanded this format.
As bad as Thompson was, didn't the Dolphins score 31 in that game?
Yeah, which says to the nature of that Bills team, which is why we saw them get blown up by the Bengals.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. All right. There'll be a whole lot more playoff discussion coming up this week and looking forward to doing it again next week. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but Ravens Bills in the playoffs is going to be just dripping with storylines. I can't wait to talk about that one. But the Bills got to get it through Sunday first.
And the thing you point out that schedule is with the way it lined up, the Bills will know who they're going to play Saturday night. They'll know when they take the field, they'll know who their potential opponent will be. So they'll be able to do some advanced scout, I guess, and Bills fans won't have to speculate as they watch the final 3 NFC teams play.
That's right. That all 3 AFC games go first, and it's the 3 NFC games after that, correct?
Correct.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that. By the way, quick on that, Washington, Tampa for Sunday night. Did that blow you away? I mean, I thought that might have been the worst game on the board.
I thought that was certainly interesting. I think everybody and their mother put the Eagles and the Packers at the night game. I would imagine Fox just got the first pick there. Maybe they don't get as many playoff games the rest of the way. They're getting the Super Bowl. So I would imagine that NBC wanted that game, but maybe Fox with 4:30, which is basically as big of a primetime slot as the Sunday night game. I would say maybe Fox got to pick first.
Still a curious choice, in my opinion. All right. As always, you can check out Buffalo Game Day Recap at rochesterfirst.com.
Click on the sports tab. We're at 8 Sports Extra. You can also find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Me and AJ will be braving the cold, which I'm pretty sure is still going to be remaining in town for next Sunday. Bills and Broncos. Should be fun. Playoffs always are. It certainly is a whole lot better than talking about punters downing balls inside the 20 for $100,000. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.